Hi, I'm Susie Schaefer with Finish the Book Publishing. This is a post-publishing interview with Shari Biery, author of It's Your Turn.
Well, this has been a great experience with you, Susie,
I'm
is
so glad.
being able to jump in and work on the publishing part and on the back end of Amazon and making everything consistent. So I don't know if you want to kind of kick us off and kind of share what you do and who you
Yeah.
are.
Well, let's kind of even back up even further.
Yeah.
So you came to me, we met at the Military Influencer Conference, and you had come to me and said, "Hey, I think I need some help with my book." And your book had already been published. And I have to say, I love your book. It's beautiful. You did a great job on it. But the one element that you were missing is that you were only using Amazon. And
Mhm.
so I was like, you're leaving money on the table. You want to be eligible to bookstores and libraries. And so we talked about how that would look and how we would republish your book, basically just taking what you'd already done, making a few slight changes, and making sure that you were up on Ingram Spark so that you were eligible. So that was the goal, because I said you've got a good platform. You're going to be doing speaking engagements. You need to make sure that you're clicking all the boxes in order to be accessible, right?
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
yeah, so that was really my role, is to come in and say, okay, here's the list of things that I think we need to do. And let's do this and move this forward so that you have your book not only on Amazon but on Barnes and Noble and et cetera, et cetera. And even before we started this recording, we were talking about the fact that now your ebook is now available as a Nook version versus just the Kindle version.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's so true. I mean, we talked about this at one point in time, is how we all consume books differently and just depends on what we're kind of quote unquote in the mood for or what our life is right now, whether it's, reading a digital on our Nook or our Kindle versus liking hardcovers or
Right.
paperbacks versus even an audio version. And that's something I'm exploring next, is looking at that. But
Yeah, I would highly recommend that you do the audio version. And really, I call us hybrid readers, because we do use different versions. And it basically is because it suits our needs to be able to consume information, and especially books, whether we're using an e-reader or having a physical book or listening to audiobooks. And I think we all do that now.
yeah, it's such a good way to kind of just look at your book in a whole different light of rather than just this one particular materialistic kind of piece of property, if you will, with it. So it's good.
Right.
Yeah.
But it is an asset. And so with your brand and the work that you do, you have to consider the fact that this is your own information. Even for example, your method, the calm method
Mhm.
that you use with your clients, that's proprietary information. And why not put that in a book so that you can get that out to millions and millions of readers to potentially gain more clients?
Yeah. Yeah, it really is it's a big lead magnet, if you will, or it's a way to have readers or potential clients get to know me through the stories that I share and just kind of the examples in the book of client stories. And, there's so much in the world where it can feel big and overwhelming. And I just really wanted this book to give a message of hope to women, especially when we're intersecting, different times in our lives, like midlife, and in my own situation of kind of the healing I went through and the discovery of what I needed at that time was being able to kind of write it all down. A book was never on my radar, really, or my bucket list. I tell people that all the time. You don't understand. I never, and in my mind, never really claimed that identity. And even now, it's like, I'm an author. That seems so weird, kind of thing, because it wasn't anything that was really big on my bucket list. But being able to see that what we all offer in our story can really help other people, and especially in the military spouse community or service spouse communities, or if you're that woman who's supporting a spouse in maybe their career, but you're doing all the invisible things at home that you don't necessarily get credit for. That's been a big response that I've heard from women, and the step into really seeing how this is affecting my health.
Mm,
That is really a big pivotal thing that has happened, is being able to share the story through a book has been, um, just gives a little more context to the work that I do.
yeah. And that's why I love your title, because it really does resonate with those people that have spent years supporting a spouse or being involved as a military spouse. That it's your turn, meaning that, okay, now you get to kind of refocus
Yeah.
your energy on yourself and taking care of yourself. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Never did we think my husband handing me the American flag at that moment and him saying those words would it turn into a book.
Right.
But it did. And it's a message of empowerment and being able to have those conversations, because now we're kind of in this transition again of realizing, like, it's his turn. It's our turn. Like, I can see this where
Right.
somebody asked me the other day, they're like, "Will you write more books?" And I'm like, "I don't know." Like, that is something I think as we go too, as authors, we start to hear messages. And what do people need to hear to feel that hope?
Exactly. Yeah. I do see that you have another book in your
Yeah.
future.
Yeah. I think the one thing I have to take my own advice is like rest. It's like,
Mm,
okay, take a break, absorb it, like it. And the other thing that I've really learned this last year too, and especially working with you too, is that this book lives on in
mm,
many different ways, and we have to remember as authors, it's not just launching it and it's done. It's like this is just the beginning.
exactly.
Being able to be able to open, the pathway of doing speaking engagements or being in front of different groups, or you and I were talking about book clubs and different things like that. Just the opportunity for people to see, there's other ways that, I someone always said, "Do you make a lot of money writing a book,
Right.
selling a book?" And I'm like, "Well, there's other ways that from the
Right.
book that opens the door." And I think that's what, that mindset of, "Oh, you don't make money writing a book or selling a book." It's like the real true passion and purpose in all of this is to have a successful, helping other people and being successful in your business is being able to use that as a method to open other ways and pathways that they can work with you.
Exactly. And that's one of the things that many times with authors, I have to get them to kind of shift their thinking into, you're not going to make $1 million off your book. Like, understand that that's part of the reality of it. But what you're doing is you're now making yourself accessible by being on Amazon, the biggest bookseller in the world. You're now making yourself accessible for people to find you and for you to actually attract those ideal clients or the people that you want to work with, and to serve your own mission and purpose by helping others. So
Mhm.
that really, if you look at it more in that aspect of a tool to
Mhm.
to put yourself out there and make yourself accessible, that's really the goal of doing a book. But also, on the flip side of it too, many people have told me that when they're writing the book, that they are actually experiencing a lot of healing with any
Mhm.
kind of trauma that they've come through, or being able to close their own chapters in their lives, by writing the book. There's something about that really kind of sparks the healing process, and sometimes that's more important than getting the great client, right?
Yeah, yeah. Oh, that was definitely me in this process. I didn't realize because, again, never considered myself a writer, quote unquote, or being able to like never took the time to sit down and journal or anything like that. Just in the pace of life I was living, is being able, it has been one of the most cathartic things that I have done in my lifetime so far. And there's so many ripples of doing that
Mm,
healing that happens in our lives, our relationships. I say this all the time, like writing this book and being a coach has made me a better person overall. It's a better wife, a better mom, a better friend, a better entrepreneur. Like it just, I can't even say like all the areas of my life that it touches. And it does really make it, there's so many people talking at people in this world. When we can write our story and feel like we're seen and heard and,
Mm,
listened to, there's just no amount of payment, like you say,
right.
that can be seen. And writing this story too, the thing that has been, I guess, not surprising, but just, I guess, the biggest payment for me is when someone messages me or tags me
Mhm,
on a Facebook post and says, "Oh my gosh, you're talking to me in this book," is they see themselves in this. And that makes us feel less alone in
mm.
all of the
I
world that
agree.
we
Yeah.
live in.
But that's
So,
how we create community, right? We create
mhm,
community around finding ways to connect with people who have similar situations in their lives. So that's really awesome.
mhm,
Now, let me
yeah.
ask you the question. This is more of a technical thing. When we were going through the process of republishing your book, what was like the biggest aha moment for you as far as the steps that we were taking and the things that we were discussing and that I was teaching you along the way?
Yeah, I think the aha moment is realizing like I don't have to do all of this on my own. Like being able to invest in working with someone like you was so easy because you made it, like this is the check punch list. This is what we can do in this project. You were able to really see and take what I was visioning of working more in listing on books in bookstores and libraries to be able to open that pathway up to do more speaking and stuff and being there. But being able, when you reflected back, kind of hearing what my goals were, was being able to come up with this beautiful, like, okay, this is the plan. You helped me map the plan. You mapped the plan for me. And then just passing it over and not worrying, like, I don't have to learn all these systems.
Mm,
You're giving me enough that I can get in there and look at stuff and I know how to work it. And then also knowing that I can just call Susie and work with her again if I need to, is being able to have that, knowing that we're not out on my own, so to speak. We're just in publishing too. I think
mm.
working in publishing this book, I'm giving you a lot of ahas, but this one too is like we don't have to do it alone. There are experts who know how to do this, can do this in half the time or probably a quarter of the time that it would take us to learn something as a new author. And frankly, I don't have time for it. I don't want to spend my time on that. I want to spend it, meeting people and being able to just, hear their story and hear how I can help. So it's just really a beautiful thing that you've done
Well,
with
thank you for
the
that.
project.
And I think you're right when you're talking about the value of your time. Um, it does not behoove you in your place in life and your career and what you're doing to go and have to learn all these systems, right? It does not make sense. Because you're right, when you have a partner, that partner can actually help you navigate those. But even after the fact, like we were talking earlier about some of the ins and outs and what does this mean and how does this connect to that and all those little things. I've spent years in this industry learning these things, and
Mhm.
I don't expect that my authors are going to know them. I've always said we don't do our own dental work, so why should you try and finish your own book on your own, right? It does not make sense.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but really, your time is better spent in connecting with community and looking for those speaking engagements and working alongside local bookstores, libraries, trying to get the word out about what your mission and purpose is. That's where your time is more valuable. You
Mm.
don't need to be sitting behind the computer trying to figure out the ins and outs of KDP, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
right, right, right. I'm a big believer in accessing the people and the tools that can help you get there faster.
Yeah,
It's like being
absolutely.
able to do it and less stress.
So what's next on the horizon for you?
Yeah. So next for me, I'm finalizing my programs that I'm doing. I've been doing coaching programs, so to speak, that have been one-on-one or some groups, but really kind of taking the product of what the book has really, the formula that I've had has been the formula I've worked with, the method, the C.A.L.M method. And so taking that and hearing what other women have mentioned, kind of the feedback. So the programs are the one thing that'll be launching here this later this spring. And then the audio version of the book. That's the one
Mm,
thing that I hear so many women saying, I bought your book, but I just haven't had time to read it. But I know that I consume books through audiobooks, and I know that's a big way people are consuming when you're driving in the car, which I spend a lot of time doing, or, going out on walks or that kind of thing. So those are kind of really the two main things, and then visibility, really getting out there. And you know I've spent a lot of time behind the computer writing the book, doing coaching and the programs. It's time to get out and really be in other communities too, in person. So I'm excited about that.
yeah. And I think the one thing about audiobooks that's wonderful is that as a consumer of audiobooks, I will often, depending on the type of book, will often listen to the book and actually have my journal. And while I'm listening, I might be jotting down, I'm also very intuitive. So I might be jotting down thoughts,
Mm.
ideas that come to me, anything that comes up for me while I'm listening to the book. So I'm really expanding the use of that material, to turn it into something that is usable for myself. So, I
Mhm.
definitely recommend the audiobook for sure. Yeah.
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 Yep. Yeah. That's
Yeah.
good. Yeah.
Okay. Anything else that you want to share or ask questions about or anything like that that you think the audience would,
Um,
glean something from?
yeah, I think, just in summary, kind of saying the same thing is just, I know it could be really, I went through some pretty significant trauma with what I was experiencing in my own kind of pathway of publishing. And I don't want to go too much into it, but I had, worked with someone or worked with a group, and I thought I was going to publish that way. And then things happened and it looked very different for me. And I was a little lost for a little bit there. And so really that whole, it was an intimidation of like self-publishing just
Mhm.
sounded so big and so like daunting. And what I realized in all of it was just, for me, I very much am a believer that God puts the people in your path that you need. And so when I took that leap and said, okay, I can do this, it was just, you appeared, several other people appeared along the journey that recommended other people for the next step. And so it just organically happened. And so, just anybody who's contemplating, like, can I do this? Yes, you can absolutely do it. And doing it with a guide like Susie, like you, Susie, and the other coaches that I've accessed, it's made it 1,000 times easier.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate that. And
Yeah.
congratulations on your book and us doing the relaunch of your book. That's very exciting. And I'm definitely going to be really looking forward to seeing what you do next.
I love it. Thanks again for your support.
Thanks, Sherry.